At exactly 0011 hours local time on March 20th, 2026, the first minutes of Nowruz, the Persian New Year, the people of Durtile in Turkey's Hatay province were jolted from sleep by a detonation that no alliance planner had predicted would arrive there. A concussive blast shook the Amik plain, cracking windows across a 4-kilometer radius and sending a column of fire skyward visible from the Syrian border. The crater measured 7 meters deep and 23 meters wide. Turkey's Integrated Air Defense System, MIM, 104 Patriot batteries linked to the F-16 squadrons of the 8th Main Jet Base at Diyarbakir had tracked the inbound contact for 94 seconds. It had been classified as ballistic. It had been cleared as likely passing north of Turkish airspace. The PAC-3 MSE battery at Iskenderun rotated its engagement radar too late. Fragment analysis later identified the weapon as an Emad-1 medium-range ballistic missile roadmobile, liquid-fueled, 750 kilogram high-explosive warhead. Circular error, probable of 500 meters, fired from a mobile TEL somewhere in the Zagros mountain corridor. Iran denied it within 40 minutes, calling it an Israeli false flag. The denial was almost too instantaneous, and that detail alone would set off a chain of military movements over the next 11 hours that brought the Atlantic Alliance to the edge of its most consequential Article 5 response since September 2001. The first 90 seconds after impact were controlled chaos inside NATO's Combined Air Operations Center at Torrejón Air Base in Spain. Link 16 network feeds from E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft, AN, TPY-2 ground radar stations in Turkey, and the Aegis destroyer USS Ross in the Sea of Marmara confirmed identical track origin. Iranian territory. The missile had crossed Iraqi airspace where US F-15EX fighters were queried with no intercept authority descended through Syrian airspace and impacted Turkish soil. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was on a secure line to Turkey's defense minister within 4 minutes. His words were short. NATO is engaged. At Ramstein, SACEUR General Christopher Cavoli convened an emergency North Atlantic Council session. The clock on Article 5 consultation had started ticking. What made March 20th uniquely lethal was that it happened simultaneously across every theater at once. At 0018 hours, while Turkish engineers were still measuring the Durtiyal crater, radar operators aboard the USS Batan Arg detected a launch signature from Iran's Makran coast. Target, Diego Garcia. 2 Shahab. 3 variants lifted off from near Jask Naval Base. The Aegis Ashore Battery at Diego Garcia Baseline 9, C2, SM-3 Block IIA interceptors computed a fire solution in 12 seconds. Both missiles were destroyed. Debris fell 280 kilometers northeast of the island. The runways remained operational, but the message was clear. Iran was firing in every direction simultaneously, testing every defensive layer at once. This was not desperation. This was coordinated multi-theater saturation. Simultaneously, Bahrain's Sector Air Defense Operations Center was tracking 38 new drone contacts materializing within 3 minutes. Shad 136 loitering munitions, splitting into 6 corridors targeting Isa Air Base, the U.S. 5th Fleet Headquarters, and the Mina Salman Pier Complex. BDF Hawk batteries went active. Saudi Patriot PAC, 2 batteries across the causeway, joined the engagement. 8 F/A-18E Super Hornets from USS Eisenhower turned inbound at Afterburner. In 47 minutes, all 38 contacts were destroyed. But the engagement had consumed 31 SM, 2 missiles, 14 PAC, 2 GEM-T interceptors, and hundreds of CIWS rounds. The magazines were drawing down, and the launches from Iran had not stopped. 300 kilometers northwest, Saudi Arabia's eastern province was inside the most complex drone engagement in modern air warfare. 47 inbound contacts approached in staggered formations at 800 to 2,200 meters altitude, using Gulf maritime traffic noise to mask their radar cross-sections. Saudi air defense commanders recognized the Wolfpack saturation tactic, immediately designed to force defenders to commit radars early and deplete stocks before the primary wave. They did not take the bait. They held Patriot batteries in reserve, engaged the first 24 contacts with Crotale-NG proximity bursts, saved PAC 3S for the second wave. All 47 contacts were destroyed. But shrapnel from interceptor debris wounded 4 workers at Kuwait's Mina al-Ahmadi refinery. The war had stopped being abstracted by distance. Back at Torrejon, Saussure had presented 3 options to the North Atlantic Council. Option 1, formal Article 5 invocation with collective military response. Option 2, bilateral Turkish response with NATO intelligence support. Option 3, a 72-hour diplomatic ultimatum with pre-positioned strike packages authorized for execution on failure. The vote was neither unanimous nor fast. France and Germany pressed for Option 3. Turkey, with sovereign blood on its soil, demanded Option 1. The United States, whose B-21 raiders were actively bombing Iran from Diego Garcia, that hour pushed for Option 2 to avoid the legal complexity of a collective war declaration against a state they were already striking unilaterally. The argument lasted 94 minutes. The final resolution was a hybrid. Article 5 consultation formally invoked, kinetic response authority temporarily delegated to Turkey bilaterally. The 8th main jet base received its orders at 0143 hours. At 0147 hours, 4 Turkish F-16C Block 50 fighters from the 182nd Squadron, each loaded with 2 AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles and 4 AIM-120D AMRAAMs, went airborne from Diyarbakir's Kaling. Runway 2, their mission, suppress Iranian-supplied Orada, 3 passive radar nodes in northern Syria that had been feeding targeting data back to Tehran's missile batteries. Turkey's legal justification was clean. Syrian airspace had been used as a transit corridor for the Dertyal strike, making those Syrian relay nodes contributory platforms to an attack on NATO soil. At 0312 hours, the SEAD flight acquired the first radar node north of Hama City. HARM missiles went active. Both radars went dead in 11 seconds. A second F-16 flight released 4 JDAM-ER precision munitions against hardened antenna towers and communications relay stations. All 4 impacted within 3 meter CEP. The structures ceased to exist. 3 Iranian radar feeds in Tehran's underground air defense control center went dark simultaneously. A 40-kilometer seam had opened in Iran's coverage of the Turkish-Syrian border. NATO planners at Torrejon noted it on their overlays with quiet, professional precision. In the Indian Ocean, the USS Boxer amphibious ready group, carrying 2,500 Marines of the 11th MEU, with CH-53K King Stallions, AH-1Z Vipers, and MV-22 Ospreys, was 310 nautical miles from the Gulf of Oman, steaming at 22 knots. The MEU commander issued one instruction to his battalion commanders: all personnel on 30-minute recall. The mess decks went quiet. Marines do not eat slowly on 30-minute recall. The Dertyal crater told the world something no press conference could. Iran had fired a ballistic missile into NATO territory. NATO had fired back. The old doctrine of geographic containment, the idea that a war could be kept inside a defined box, had died on the Amek Plain at 0011 hours. We are no longer in an era where escalation ladders are climbed, one rung at a time. We are in a world where every rung is occupied simultaneously, where a Turkish crater, a Bahrain drone swarm, Diego Garcia intercepts, and a Marine Expeditionary Forces closing bearing all exist in the same operational hour. The question is no longer whether this war expands. The question is whether the people with the authority to stop it can find the precise moment where stopping is still possible before that moment closes forever. Stay sharp, stay informed, and ask yourself, when a ballistic missile hits NATO soil and the alliance's first response is a bilateral airstrike rather than a collective one, is that restraint? Or is it the last warning before something far larger begins? Comment below.